Good day. I'm not sure who's crazier, me or the dog. But we're heading to the cottage property here. Got about an hour or so here to go. It was minus 23 when I left, kind of late morning. Expecting it to be mid minus 20s when I get out to the lake here. The road, the highway, Trans-Canada Highway is clear. Not too bad on the black ice, but definitely at this time of the year with the low angle of the sun, you get between rock cuts or behind a tree line and the road certainly doesn't look great. So I'm just taking my time. I've got substantial headwind here today too, so I'm expecting with the wind chill, we're probably, you know, in the minus 30s somewhere. It's only been the last couple decades here with, you know, global warming that we're getting these just sub below zero or sub below freezing January and February periods where you know, we're having these mild winters. I guess that's something to do with La Nina this year. It's certainly a North American phenomenon anyways. Kind of describe recreational property in a little more depth here in terms of Northern Ontario. Very often the word cabin or cottage isn't used. Most of the time your recreational property is going to be called camp. Now, how that ever derived that way, I'm not 100% certain, but it probably had something to do with the fact that Northern Ontario was extensively, or still is extensively, used for forestry and logging operations. There's a lot of crown land up here, and a lot of our bush is harvested for pulp or saw logs. So I think the term camp was derived from the bush camp way back in the day when loggers went into the boreal to harvest timber. They stayed there. They didn't get back in their truck and drive home every night. They lived in the bush camp. So I think that's where the name camp came from. The truck's beeping here. I got my seatbelt on. My dog's lying in the front seat, and I guess she's putting the alarm off here. But for the purposes of this video or any other video that I'm gonna post, a camp is referred to as my recreational cottage or cabin. It's off-grid, it's on a lake, it's not very big, it's a 12 by 16 building. Oh, we're gonna have to move you in the back here, I think. Otherwise that's gonna make me crazy. Anyway, another topic on Northern Ontario highways would be moose. You could go on and on about moose in Northern Ontario for hours on end. There's still lots of them, even though some of the hunting regulations seem to be changing. But one thing about moose is they seem to love highways, whether it's in the winter or the summer. Summer, they're getting flushed out of the bush by mosquitoes and black flies. They'll come to the road for a shot of fresh air and maybe a bit of a breeze. Now in the winter, moose love to get out to the side of the road, often to lick salt. So especially at night, they are more of a nocturnal animal, I believe. So you certainly have to be aware of this on nighttime driving. I'm just looking at some moose tracks here on the side of the road right now on the bush road. But definitely at nighttime, you're going to want to be mindful of moose on the Northern Ontario highways. Another place that moose do seem to like to travel, and this isn't always the case, but what's called the high ground and low ground break. If you walk where the swamp or the wetland or a bog or maybe even just a river or lake edge meets shoreline or meets high ground, you're often going to find some type of track or path of some sort of large mammal, whether that be a wolf or a bear or moose or maybe even woodland caribou. Mind you, woodland caribou would be a little bit further north, and the ground there generally isn't as abrupt Canadian Shield as it would be further south. But nonetheless, this break is very often where you can find these tracks. They're not gonna, moose are smart, they're not gonna walk in a swamp, they're gonna walk where it's easy to walk. And very often it's on this area where the wetland breaks into high ground being rock cap, bedrock, just glacial till, forest, firm ground, more or less. Anyways, I'm almost getting here to camp, so I'm gonna have to get out of the truck here soon, get on some warm weather gear and make it down to my bunkie and get some heat going, because it was pretty much minus 22 the whole way out here. It's about it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, give or take. Bella, we at camp? Where are we? Here's what I'm wearing. I'm gonna put on my Thermo King wool pants and my Basque boots. Well, here we are. I got to get this stove going. It's awfully chilly. No window, which is good. Just shoveling away down the hill here. And we got a fire going and get the place warmed up. Okay, not sure what temperature is. I'm gonna bring the thermometer down here that I'm gonna mount outside. Anyways, we're inside, and I put Bella up on the bed. Her paws are getting a little cold there outside. It's cold out, no question. See if we can get away from too much backdrafting here. Yeah, it's just good draft. Oh, there's my kindling I was looking for. And there. I got here, I had to split some kindling. I couldn't remember what I did with it the last time I was out here. Anyways, we did a little bit of this extra stuff in here. Now this is a sauna stove. A wood stove, so it does heat the building up quite well. And if you're not careful at night, no matter how cold it is out, you'll blow yourself out of this building. So once we get it going and the building comes up to temp, we will transition it down to more of an idle and try to keep it from running too hard. There's your indoor temperature, more or less the same as the outdoor. There's a shot of the lake. Hopefully it's supposed to warm up tomorrow here a bit. Outhouse, wood pile. Gotta get some wood here. I have wood down at the sauna, but it was only cut and split last summer. And this stuff is about either 2 or 3 years old, depending on where you're at. And coming down though. Been out here twice this winter, and yeah, you go through it. No, I want you to sit. Hey, I want you to, are you not going to sit? That's a good girl. Okay. Gorgeous out. Well, we are warming because it's only minus 15 in here now, or I guess that's just above 0 Fahrenheit. Here's the sound one. I've got a couple jugs of water that I leave out here. They're frozen solid, but after a few hours you get a little bit of water out them, but I still brought fresh water. Also, there's the auger there. I can always punch a hole in the lake as well. Burning it now. I'll show you the firewood that I brought in. Small load that'll do tonight, maybe a bit into tomorrow. I'll bring a bit more down. Put a little bit of a tilt on it and open it up a bit to get the fuel into the Coleman lantern here. One thing about January is it gets dark fast still, even though we're on the upswing of sunrises and daylight. Definitely going to want to have some light in here come an hour or two from now. You know, I feel that lantern up inside, which is a bit of a no-no. You should really be handling this Coleman fuel always in the outdoors. They have warnings and labels and everything all over it. I just took my Coleman fuel cans and brought them outside here. I'll store them underneath the deck of the sauna, and I'll as well light that lantern outside when it comes time. I figure we got another hour and a half maybe here before it's time to brighten up the place. I do have some solar as well. There's a solar light up there, Motion, and it seems to work pretty good. We'll see how well it functions today in this cold weather, how long it lasts. I've got another LED lantern inside as well, and I'll probably hang the Coleman outside. It'll just shine in the windows and provide some ambient light that way. But anyways, my bad. Don't fuel up your Fuelman or your Coleman appliances, whether it's a stove or a lantern in the indoors. The other thing too is whether you're running, you can bring that lantern inside. Just make sure everything's ventilated. Don't go to sleep with that thing on. Turn it off and take it outside. Let it cool down outside. But I do run a small butane stove as well inside for cooking on something. But you really need to have a stove to cook properly. Just make sure everything's well ventilated. I guess that's my point. temperature is now above 0. So I got some firewood loaded up outside, and brought the cooler down with some food. The dogs now having a nice warm up in here. You can see that. Right beside the stove. Her paws are frozen. She's out chasing a squirrel and just going crazy in the snow, but time for warm up. And the sauna stove's running decent. Nice heat. And I'm just gonna sit down and kind of get my groceries in order here. Carpenter's glue. I'll keep that from freezing. Off the floor. Got a couple of these containers here for various items. I'm not sure if they're mouse proof, but I don't really seem to have a problem with mice in here. Although that can always change. God knows I had a problem with mice in a trailer until I found the gaps where they were getting in, which stopped the problem after I filled those with steel wool and screwed some aluminum fascia boards down over top of it. But these things I'm going to use to store some various items in. Some oatmeal. Pasta. Extra paper towel. It's good to have around. Here's more of the butane I was talking about that I'll use in my stove here later on. Keep that down on the floor out of the way as well. I'm all about, washing dishes and all that, but sometimes there's just no time. Paper plates, paper bowls. Couple of yogurt drinks. Some chocolate. I always bring out a couple bottled water for coffee or other just drinking, I guess. Some pasta. Small garbage bags. I bring most of my garbage home. A lot of the stuff gets burned as well. Some milk for coffee. The nice thing about staying in the sauna bunkie camp here is you can use the floor level as a refrigerant. You can keep this down on the floor and it's going to stay nice and cool. That's about it.
somebody to have her supper.
Oh, 5:30 and lights out. It's dark outside. I managed to get a little bit of construction done inside here today. Not a whole heck of a lot. Seems to be the way it goes when you get out here. Spend so much time just getting the bare necessities going. Heat being the big one. Light. Organizing tools. Moving stuff around. It's a small space, so there's not a lot of room to work unless you're moving stuff around. So anyways, I got a little bit of the tongue and groove up on the one wall here. It's time to eat. I got some homemade chili. It's got some ground moose in it. I think it's a mix of moose and just regular beef. Alright, so here's my butane stove. These are really a nifty little item aside from the throwaway canisters. They are super easy to use and nice and small, lightweight. They throw a lot of BTUs. Before I do this, I got this lantern going. I'm gonna crack the window here a little bit, get a little bit of extra air going in here. Both the stove and the lantern are burning O2 in here, so definitely want to make sure we have lots of fresh air when we got this stuff going. I can feel her pouring in there. That's a 4-foot awning window, so I'm going to put this little lock lever down. Bear with me here for a second. That's that. Dial it down a bit. Like I said, these things kick out a lot of heat. That's that. just put up a little bracket here to hold this light up. I used to have one up there, but I took it down. This is just going to be temporary. But I needed to screw those things into the 2x4 studs. Well, I just finished eating. Chili was good. Stove heated it up nicely. Temperature outside now is dropping, about minus 23, minus 24. We might get some snow tonight here, so we'll see what we get in the morning here. They're calling for it to start maybe 10, 11 o'clock tonight. Floor's starting to warm up in here. From the knees up, it's been warm in here for quite some time, but the knees and down, it was still quite cool. I took my Vask boots off and I just got a pair of rubber Crocs on here now, and the floor is certainly warmed up quite a bit. When we built this place, we did insulate the floor, probably, I'm guessing maybe R24 vapor barrier on the top, and it's boxed in on the bottom to keep the critters out. But I know that's a big factor from years gone in the past where I've been in buildings without insulated floors and in this type of weather. I mean, and there's no skirting around this building either, so you get a northerly wind blowing in off the lake, and that's just super cooling everything underneath. So insulated floor was certainly an important factor to the envelope of the building. So anyways, I'm probably going to catch some shut-eye here soon and see what kind of snow we have in the morning. Maybe have a few dishes here to do, but for the most part. Time to perk some coffee. All right, so 7 in the morning. I got the coffee perking here. Well, it's not just, I just put it on. Fed the dog. Started the fire around 6, and was up maybe at midnight reloading the fire. It was about minus 30 last night. It seems to have warmed up. Overcast, looks like it's going to snow. So it's only about minus 23, give or take, here this morning. Gonna have a coffee and just chill here for a bit. Let it brighten up outside. What are you doing? You cold? Just came in. She was outside running around after a squirrel, I guess, or something. Just daybreaking here now. Coffee's just about ready. Well, it's day 2 here. It's around 11. Figured to make myself some lunch. It's tomato and rye sandwich. It's about minus 19 or 18 Celsius. A bit of a whiteout. Had some jobs to do outside, so I was out with the dog doing that. And also, I did get this wall completed here this morning. So starting to take shape. Anyways, I'm gonna finish up here.
Dig. Let's go for your supper. Never mind the stick, we're going for supper. down the end of the road for some reason. I was in here working, so I don't know what the heck she was doing. Warning a squirrel.
Well, that's a bit bright. Just finished up more work on the inside here today. Got some casings done around the window and a little more of this wall done here. And then of course cleanup after the fact takes forever. There's sawdust all over the place, and outside there's wood and pieces of scrap, tongue and groove. So I'm just making up some macaroni and cheese. I have a can of peas back there that I'll mix in with it. And long day, haven't eaten since about 11, but that's long enough. And the dog was getting a little like stop working already and go to bed. She's over there sacked out. She had lots of fun today.
Whether you can see that or not, this is what I mean by moose love highways. There's a bunch of tracks.